Hello and welcome to the podcast. This podcast is about life, creativity, and the pursuit of your heart's desires. On today's episode, we sit down with Joseph Devlin, who talks to us about his journey in life and writing his book, A Step Out of Darkness. Let's dive in. Okay, Joseph.
Yeah.
We made it.
Kevin, it's so good, man.
Yeah, pleasure to see you. Thanks for coming out and being a part of this first episode of the video podcast, the video series. So Joe, before we get into it, I just want to, tell me a little bit about yourself. Who are you? Where are you from?
So, Joseph Devlin. I live in Lansdale, Pennsylvania, just north of Philadelphia. I'm married. I have two wonderful children, a boy and a girl, and I'm just blessed every day to be with them. It's fun. They teach me about life, open my eyes up to life again, because life wasn't always that way. Many days I was waking up and didn't want to wake up. And today I wake up and I'm excited about the possibilities. Because my journey through addiction, took bad paths for me. I never really envisioned myself having a family or having kids or any of those things, or having a career. And one of the things today I get to do is I get to help families who have a loved one in addiction. And we get to work together. We get to be able to clarify, hey, how do you help that loved one get into addiction treatment? How do you end up protecting the family? How do we end up really keeping that clarity and vision for, hey, what our next steps are? And to be able to do that by sharpening some skills and again, really keeping the family safe at the same time.
It's always been a pleasure to be around you and hear your journey and hear your story. And, you've been influential in my life. So I'm just so grateful for your friendship and to be on this exciting path with you. What's your morning routine like? How pivotal is having a morning routine? Yeah,
morning routine is extremely important. It's really how we set our day, our intentions for the day, really shape how I'm going to be throughout the day. And, on a perfect day, I can get up and I'll say a prayer. And then after my prayer, I'll do some meditation. And, I learned over a period of time that I do that meditation with a book in front of me. So anything clear, ideas come down, I just jot them down. And then I get up from that, I write in my gratitude journal. And then if I can get up and, go for a walk for a little bit, that's great. Get the blood flowing and then be able to see the kids off to school. That's a perfect day for me to be able to start out my routine. Yeah.
And do you always get to do those things, or do some days, life happens, you get out of bed real quick and then, you have to go out the door and, does those days ever come as well?
Oh, absolutely. Almost every day. I'll more so than I would like to admit, and sometimes I just alter the scheduling of what I'm doing. Sometimes it's maybe just seeing the kids off, and then I really get into my routine, or sometimes maybe I get up, I get to be able to say a prayer and then jump into the day. So it really does depend. But I do know that a great thing that I've learned over a period of time is I can restart my day any day out, anytime I want. So if I've missed any of those things, like if it wasn't meditation or I wasn't able to pray, or, I can stop, refocus, take that time to spend the time doing some meditation. And it could be, years ago I used to be able to sit for an hour and do meditation. And and that was so helpful for me because it just really helps quiet the mind. The mind's always thinking, and I learned through that process of meditation, when it's thinking, I just say, hey, God, in mind, thank you for doing your job next, and not to grab onto that, stop thinking, So if I can take some time to meditate, though, it just brings me into a calmer state. It brings me into, something I'm doing. If you and I, we get done with this, if I meditate for 5 minutes, it's going to help me an hour or two down the line to be more clear in how I'm going to respond to something. And that's the same thing with a gratitude list. I think gratitude lists I can do anytime during the day.
Yeah, I found that for me, having a good discipline, a morning discipline is key, because if I don't do that morning time, sitting at my table with my breakfast, reading some book, trying to get centered, and what's really important in my life for the day is just trying to find that peace and that serenity, because if I don't do that one thing, and it may not be the same amount of time every day, but I have to instill that in my daily life first thing, or else I'm like behind the eight ball. So, it's crucial for me as well to just, get that morning centeredness, and also throughout the day as well. Joseph, what has been on your mind lately? Anything coming to mind that's been like, eating at you, struggling with, biting at? What thoughts have you been having lately?
Wow. So, I would love to be able to turn around and say, I have a clarity of, everything that I want to do. Like, I'm sitting in that state of peace or that state of abundance. And, but that's just not true. Like, the thing for me right now has always been getting out a podcast has been a thing that's been on my mind. And it so takes over that even like, well, you and I, we were just kind of saying hello, and kind of getting into our time together. And you ask me like what I do, and I'm like getting all flustered because I'm already thinking like, hey man, we're doing this is video, and this is all these other things, and hey, it's all got to sound right. Instead of just simply, when I'm telling you like what I do for a profession, what I do for a profession is I have a blessing today that I get to work with families, who have a loved one in addiction, because I was the guy causing the chaos in addiction. So when I get to work with these families, we have the opportunity to say, hey, listen, there is hope, there is a way out, there is a way to help your loved one get into treatment, there's a way to protect the family, there's a way to change the environment, there's a way to influence, hey, who's spending time around your home or around the one that you love. And, we'll have that unique insight because, being on the other side of it, I can now help other people to avoid some of the pitfalls I had. But going back to one of the things that I'm thinking about, because I get so consumed by the next thing I got to do as far as work goes, I sometimes miss the clarity of what I'm doing right in front of me. I'm not able to articulate it as well as I would like.
Too many minds. Too many minds. I heard that one some time ago,
Yep. And
when I'm up in my head and I'm trying to strategize about what's going on in the future, or, things that I'm lacking, it's like, those thoughts can run me rampant and wild. And, so I get that, it's just like, being still, and enjoying the journey, and wherever I'm at, that's like, the best thing for the day, and all will be right in the world as long as I keep my thoughts and keep my keep my mind focused on the present, on the right now, versus what's going on down the road, because I'm not even there yet. Yeah. Joseph, what is your profession and what's your line of work?
Yeah. So I work with families who have a loved one suffering from an addiction. And I work personally hand in hand with those people who don't know what to do. Like, their loved one has caused like tremendous catastrophes within their families, and they're afraid that their loved one's going to die. So I work with them to be able to clarify next steps that we've got to do to take to help their loved one enter addiction treatment, while at the same time keeping the family members safe, as well as, hey, listen, once they're in addiction treatment, what do I do, and how do I continue to support them through their long-term sobriety?
And what's the best thing about your job that you do?
The best thing about my job is watching the families come together. Of course, it's the individual getting sober, but it is the family unit becoming strong again. Once where they thought that there's no way they could repair the harm that was done, but you see families flourishing together and grandchildren being born, and it's a pleasure just to be a part of.
How do you handle when you get a phone call and it's somebody's worst day of their life? How do you walk somebody through that?
I again think it's a privilege for somebody to reach out and allow me into their family. So I take it very personally. And how I handle that is like, let's get to the, where do we, how quickly can we move to getting everybody safe? That's my first thought. And so if I can help the other person who's on the other line, you know, kind of establish, hey, where are we at? What's the crisis level are we at? Sometimes it's, we got to move right now. Sometimes it's, okay, we got somebody in treatment. What are we going to do? And so it's just, it's being able to step back and say, hey, listen, where are we at? Where's crisis moment? And what is the next steps that we need to take to continue to build success in this, and to be able to keep people safe and change lives? And once we've got people to, like, we know that people are safe, then we can move on to those next steps of, hey, listen, this is going to be more of a coaching piece. This is going to be more of a counseling piece. This is going to be more of an actual strategic planning. It all depends. But once you get into that one moment, it is kind of like crisis moment, all hands on. And it reminds me when I volunteered on an ambulance as an EMT for years. And you never know what you were going to get when you showed up on site, you know, and you had to just be ready. And it's kind of, it's that moment in time. And I'm also fortunate enough to have a lot of trauma training. And so it's being able to navigate the ins and outs of that, which God gave me a gift to be able to, not everybody can ride on an ambulance. And God gave me a gift to be able to be calm in the midst of that storm. And I'm grateful to be able to utilize that talent.
So tell us about the book you wrote.
Yeah, the book I wrote, Step Out of Darkness, How to Help a Loved One Enter Addiction Treatment and Walk with Them Through Recovery, is just that. It is written for any person who has a loved one suffering, who they know who is suffering from addiction, and really how to help them enter a treatment. What are some things to expect in treatment? How do you deal with insurance companies? And then how do you support them for long-term sobriety? I'd worked for a very long time within the treatment industry. And one thing I always felt was that families were left out of the whole treatment process. They didn't really understand it. And so I said, hey, listen, I felt a really deep calling that I needed to pour out the information I had into a book to help families, you know, because when you're in the middle of chaos and you're fearful and you don't know what's going to happen next, it's sometimes hard to think like the next things that we need to do. So I've even included, you know, a simple page in there, and hey, what do you ask your insurance company when you give them a call? Because, you know, in the middle of it, you're going to miss some of those things.
What was that experience like writing the book? What was that like for you?
Yeah, that was a. I mean, luckily, you know, I had believed in the philosophy that, hey, listen, if you just set up time to do it and you schedule time to do it, you know, 3 times a week, you can accomplish anything. So it was something I had to work at 3 nights a week. I mean, kids would go to bed and the wife would be, you know, going to bed. And so I would stay up like an extra hour and a half and just work on the book. And I did that for, it was definitely about 6 months. And then once I, it was a process. And then luckily I had some people who were willing to read it, you know, yeah.
And what was that, like any challenges that came along with those nights of writing, and any like roadblocks, and, you know, talk about some of those things that was occurring while you were trying to write this book.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, some of the roadblocks are, you know, what I'm going to say is, like I said, you know, people were willing to read it. So I had some people proofreading it, which was helpful. One of the first proofreads, you know, the person got back to me and said, hey, listen, you wrote 2 books here. And I was like, what? So I had to like cut that in half of what I had originally wrote to say, okay, we just got to get on one major theme. And that was really helping folks get somebody into treatment and walk alongside them. Writer's block, oh man, like so many times hey, people are going to rip this apart. I shouldn't be writing this. You know, just all of these things of what these people are going to be saying about the book and just kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be like a failure amongst my peers, and so there's that writing every night, like you're like,
And when you were like doing that, when you were like, you're like getting that fire inside of you, like, oh, I'm going to write. And then, then you have all these thoughts, like, how did you overcome these challenges? And like, what was your process like to like not think about the negative, but just keep moving forward? And, what was that like for you?
Yeah. Yeah. There was so many different things that I used at different times to help me get through those processes. Sometimes it was just like, the message is more important. I don't really care what my peers are going to say. I know this is going to help. And that would help me sometimes, and I could push forward through that. But there was a period where every time I just picked up something, I couldn't write anything. And I was instructed to say, hey, listen, what do you want the cover of the book to be like? And I was like, why would anybody ask me that? I was like, I haven't finished the book. And they were like, look, what do you want the cover to be? I had to shift my thinking to something else. And it almost became like a dream board for me, because I could envision it. I said, oh, this is what it's going to look like. And I came up with that. And as soon as I got that done, I was able to write again.
How did it feel when the final product came out and you were like holding your book in your hand? What was that feeling like?
It was awesome. It was amazing. What really helped was like, when it goes out and it gets published, and it's all of a sudden, you get like, hey, it's available, people are buying it. I'm like, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa. Yeah. But when I'm holding, holding that copy in my hand, it's like, okay. And, it's an amazing, it's a surreal type of feeling, like, wow, like, hey, it's like, wow, we got this, and it's like, hey, this is going to help people. This is going to change people's lives. I've been in the treatment industry for so long that I know that families take it like personally. They think that it was all their fault that they did something. That's why their loved one's in addiction. And I just want to say is that it's not your fault. Like, it's not your fault that they're in addiction. But I also want to say is that you also, when you have a relationship with a loved one who's suffering from this disease, you have also a lot of social capital, meaning that you have a lot of influence over their lives. And it's just a matter of kind of changing sometimes the way we speak, and to be able to set up boundaries for them, but also be able to help them and encourage them. Know that you're there to love and support them, but you're not going to be sticking around any longer. Like, you're not going to give them permission to die in front of your eyes. So there's things that you can do. And I do encourage you, the book is a great start. So I do encourage people to pick that up. You can get that on Amazon. You can also, if you have questions, you can hit me up at josephbdevlin.com. And you can just learn more about me and see some free resources on the site as well.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us today here on the podcast. For more information, please check out josephbdevlin.com. Write a review or a comment. Please stay tuned for more episodes as we go along on this journey, creating your heart's desire. We'll see you next time.